Hey, so you think storms only happen in movies or on the nightly news? Nope! Mother Nature is basically like, pay attention or I'll blow you away. I'm talking about megastorms, typhoons, tornadoes, the kind of wild weather that can wipe out entire neighborhoods, beaches, and even oceanside towns. And trust me, we're not dealing with some light breeze here. We're talking giant cloud monsters and ruthless wind speeds that can tear through anything in their path. Take typhoons, for example. The moment wind speeds crank up to around 125 miles per hour, you can pretty much say, "Hello, disaster." Typhoons thrive on warm, humid air, which just powers them up even more. You'll usually spot them along Asian coastlines in the Pacific, and they don't stop at wind. They bring along huge waves and flooding, too. Tornadoes, on the other hand, are like the surprise house guest nobody invited. One minute, the sky's normal. The next, there's a funnel cloud swirling around trying to vacuum up everything in sight. When that spinning column of air hits about 180 miles per hour, say goodbye to rooftops and hello to flying cars. It's like a giant blender dropped down from the clouds. Cities can be left in ruins in a matter of minutes. Sound a bit freaky? Maybe it should. But don't worry. The point here isn't to give you nightmares, it's to show how insanely powerful nature can be, so we can all be a little smarter about it. Whether you're the type who lives for an adrenaline rush or the type who's like, nope, I'll stay indoors, thanks, there's a ton to learn. So kick back, get comfortable, and get ready to see massive gusts, flying debris, and maybe wonder, could this wind actually toss me across the street? Buckle up. This is only the beginning. All right, let's jump into the heart of things. Typhoons. Ever seen one up close? It's like Mother Nature decided to crank everything to max and see what happens. So how do these giant storms form in the first place? Picture a massive pot of water on your stove, except the pot is the tropical ocean, and the steam is warm, humid air rising skyward. That air hits cooler layers up above, forming thunderstorms that spin around like a blender on overdrive. If the wind speeds keep climbing, say 74 miles per hour and up, you've got yourself a typhoon. And trust me, once it levels up into a full-blown typhoon, it's not just windy, it's rooftops taking flight windy. Ever been caught in the middle of a typhoon? If you have, you know it's both terrifying and strangely awe-inspiring. One minute, the beach looks normal. The next, giant waves are crashing onto highways and turning entire streets into rivers. You've got storm surges to worry about. Basically, the sea deciding to waltz into your neighborhood uninvited, plus the floodwaters that can float cars and, yes, sometimes entire roofs downstream. The craziest part? Typhoons don't show mercy. They'll tear into coastal towns, yank off rooftops, and fling cars around like they're toy models. The aftermath often looks like a war zone, flooded streets, crumbled bridges, and that sinking feeling of, did that used to be a house? But hey, that's why we're talking about it, so we can see what these storms can do and maybe learn a thing or two. Now let's keep rolling, because up next, we'll check out how these monstrous winds team up with torrential rains and give us those jaw-dropping, car-floating scenes you'll see in the footage. Grab your raincoat. We often see how strong winds drag cars, lorries, and even giant ships out of the way. But have you seen how they destroy bridges? The catastrophic events that have increased in recent years are explained by scientists as the consequences of climate change. But you know scientists. They can change their thesis, which they defend today with certainty. Tomorrow they can change it and say, "My God, the cause is not climate change." The recent increasing and unnatural events continue to make people skeptical, just like the conspiracy theories put forward in the California fires. In essence, tornadoes are formed when warm, moist air near the ground meets cooler, drier air above. Add something called a wind shear, where wind speed and direction change at different altitudes, and you have a recipe for spinning. Imagine a horizontally rotating air-rolling pin. When the updraft of a strong storm turns this spinning air vertical, you have the beginnings of a tornado funnel. And if this funnel makes contact with the ground, congratulations, you have a full-blown tornado. These spinning columns of wind can reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour, blowing off the roofs of buildings and blowing cars like paper. The enhanced Fujita EF scale rates tornadoes from EF0 to EF5. An EF0 will only cause minor tree damage and blow away some debris, but an EF5 will destroy an entire neighborhood. Most tornadoes last only a few minutes, but even that is enough time to leave a path of destruction that looks like something out of a disaster film. In rare cases, they can stay on the ground for hours and leave a path that you can then trace on a map. The wild thing is how unpredictable they can be. Sometimes radar and storm trackers provide enough warning to get people to safety. Other times, a seemingly harmless storm can produce a funnel cloud in minutes. This is one of the things that makes tornadoes so fascinating and a little frightening. So when you watch images of roofs blown off or entire barns destroyed, remember this. It all starts with the basic weather components, a pinch of wind shears, and the nudge of a thunderstorm to bring the air-rolling pin into an upright position. Nature has a flair for the dramatic, and tornadoes are a perfect testament to that. Let's analyze lightning, the flamboyant helper of violent thunderstorms. In the simplest terms, lightning occurs when electrical charges build up inside thunderclouds. The ups and downs of a storm cloud cause ice, hail, and water droplets to collide, creating static electricity. Eventually, the charge difference between the cloud and the ground becomes so great that the electricity begins to flash through the air as lightning. Why is it so dangerous? Lightning carries an incredibly high voltage, enough to heat the surrounding air to about 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit in 1 second. If you can believe it, that's hotter than the surface of the sun. When this superheated air expands rapidly, you get the thunderous explosion we all know and perhaps don't like so much at 2 a.m. A direct lightning strike can cause severe burns, heart failure, and of course fires on impact. And not just people. Trees, power lines, and buildings can also be vulnerable. How do you stay safe? The simplest rule, go indoors when it thunders. If you are outside, Avoid wide open spaces or the tallest object in the vicinity, such as standing under a lone tree. Try not to use wired electronics indoors. Yes, lightning can pass through wires and give you a not-so-fun jolt. And if you're on the road, it's safer to stay in your car than to run outside with an umbrella like you're in a romantic comedy scene. The next time you see a flickering lightning bolt in the sky, remember that there is an electric dance going on there. It's mesmerizing to watch, but respect the power it has, because a stray bolt of lightning can really ruin your day. Don't you think she looks marvelous? Storms start with strong winds caused by the rise of warm air and the descent of cold air. Sometimes the cold air is a little too cold and sudden freezing can occur. This is a very rare phenomenon. When it happens, it negatively affects life but leaves wonderful views. Of course, when we get cold, we don't care much about the view. So let's enjoy it comfortably now. Ever been walking downtown and suddenly found your ankles underwater? That's what happens when torrential rains outpace a city's drainage system. Storm drains, sewers, none of them can keep up with the deluge, and voila, you've got flash floods filling streets and even subway stations. It's not just about a little extra water either. High-speed floodwaters can knock out power, damage roads, and turn commuting into a full-blown obstacle course. And if you think an underground train station is safe, think again. Water doesn't care where it flows. It'll spill down stairs, escalate over tracks, and basically turn your daily commute into a scene straight out of a disaster flick. Bottom line, cities can plan all they want. But when Mother Nature decides it's time to let loose, even the best-laid infrastructure can find itself underwater. Literally. Now picture all that rainfall hitting open land or hilly terrain. Sure, it sounds a bit calmer than a flooded metro station, but don't be fooled. When water collects on slopes or loose soil, it can trigger landslides that'll wipe out entire hillsides, roads, and anything else in their path. Add in debris like rocks and tree branches, and you've got a muddy avalanche barreling through the countryside. In flatter areas, prolonged flooding can soak into the ground until it's basically quicksand, weakening foundations and uprooting trees. Whether it's roaring mudslides or standing water that turns farmland into a lake, the forces unleashed when rain meets soil can be just as devastating as any city flood. All it takes is one heavy downpour for Mother Nature to remind us who's really in charge. You know, over the past few years, we've really come to understand one thing. Going head-to-head with Mother Nature ends up a disaster for us all. It doesn't matter how advanced our technology gets. There's just no outsmarting her. If we want to protect ourselves and every living thing, we've got to learn how to live in harmony with the Earth. It's almost ironic. Native Americans have been telling us this for centuries, but we're only now realizing what they meant. It's a sign that maybe we misunderstood civilization and virtue all along. Eventually we'll find our way, because walking alongside nature, not against it, is the only path that truly makes sense. Don't forget to subscribe and like for the continuation of the videos. Your ideas are important to me. State your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.